Well, guys, welcome back to the Modern Creative Podcast with your boy Alberto Mendoza. We have here Santiago, who is a content creator, businessman, a father, a husband, the whole shebang, owner of Optic Elements, correct?
Yep.
How are you doing, dude?
I'm good, man. Good. It's a good day today. It's finally in San Diego. It's not raining as much as it is.
It's feeling like summer, man. It's feeling like summer. I love it. I think after this, I'm going to hit the beach for sure.
That's good, dude. I mean, our studio is right by the beach, so you just go straight down this road, dude, and you'll hit the beach in like maybe 10 minutes.
Awesome, man. Nice. Santiago, man, how has it been, dude? It's been not a minute. We just linked up a couple of days ago for your podcast, but I'm glad we were able to make this happen. We're here on a Saturday of all days. I've never usually record on Saturdays or typically work on Saturdays unless I have an actual gig to shoot. But when I hit you up, like, hey, is it possible to push it to Saturday? I thought the chances were very slim.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I'm going to be here already anyways. I'm like, damn, man, you are grinding. And then I come here, assuming it's going to be just you, not with your the rest of your employees. And it's like, they're all here too. There's a curse sheet going on. There's an editor right now.
Yeah.
Man, how's that? How's running the business going?
It's good, man. We're in startup mode. So like right now we're, the culture that we've set is at least the people that are here currently have a certain level of buy-in, and they've been here from most of them have been here from the beginning, and they believe in the vision. So that's why when it comes to doing things on Saturdays, although it's not what we would like to do long term, and I always make sure to communicate that with our team, where it's like, hey, like it's not always going to be like this, but in the beginning, like in order to really like get ahead, just put in the work now.
You got to thug it out.
100%. And then for a season, and then after that, then we get to be more picky on the days, times, and clients we get to choose, which we have been able to do that. And then a lot of these Saturday shoots typically are with clients that our team enjoys anyways.
Right.
So and like there's some shoots that we prefer to do that on a weekday. So we're slowly getting there. And then they're just dedicated, man. And I'm just really grateful for the team.
That's awesome.
Couldn't be where I'm at without them.
That's awesome. Before we get to Optic Elements, let's take it back a few years and let's talk about how you came about. Did you always grow up with the camera? Just tell me your life story, man.
Yeah, man. It's a pretty lengthy one, but I'll just give you like the summary. So I grew up partially in Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. So I'm from Florida, but I was born in Colombia. So I was born in Colombia.
What part?
Here, Bogota.
Okay.
So born there with my mom.
Did a little pit stop there one time.
Yeah, it's beautiful, dude. I love it. I mean, not a great place to live, in my personal opinion. Nothing like the USA.
There's nothing like it.
But my mom moved here, super grateful for her doing that, to really give me an opportunity. And she like left everything, and she was in a pretty comfortable like position in Colombia, and respected professor and all that stuff, and came here, and she didn't know English, and she like never cooked in her life and never cleaned because she was like high middle class in Colombia.
Gotcha.
And it's pretty normal to have a maid and someone to clean and cook for you. So she never did that. And then she came here, had to start from zero, was going to school at night to learn English, and then working during the day, cleaning bathrooms and, all these things. And she had to learn how to clean and cook really quickly. And it was just me and her, just kind of hopping around between just living with people that we just kind of met. And it was like we would live in garages sometimes we live on people's couches, sometimes we were in our car. And then
did you guys have family prior?
So we moved here with family. So for a brief year we lived with them together because they were married and had like two sources of income. They had two kids. So it's my cousin, right? And then we lived with them for a bit, but like it just didn't work out. And then so we had to then figure something else out. For sure. And then it was just me and my mom. So she didn't have like a partner or someone to really help out financially. So she had to grind it out, and it was just like between moving with other people. And then
how old are you around this time?
I was like, I want to say like 4 or 5-ish.
Okay.
And then I remember like distinctly like just seeing my mom grind. So my mom was like a hard worker, like one of the hardest workers I know, even till this day. Like she doesn't really need to work, but she just enjoys it. She needs to always move around. And then I remember her like we would go to the library because like we couldn't rent like any movies because it's a lot of money. I mean, it wasn't a lot of money, but to us it was a lot of money. So at the library though, you can get a library card and get free movies. I didn't even know you could check out movies in libraries, and I was like, this is actually.
I mean, the movies are a little older, a little dated. Yeah, they're not 100%. The most, they're the latest and greatest
and
ones.
And they're not like DVDs.
Sure, yeah.
So they're like old school movies. But I remember going, and then we would check out. I hated reading, but we would check out movies.
I still hate
Yeah,
reading.
dude. For me, like I'm trying to learn to love it.
I'm on,
But
dude.
yeah,
Similar
it's more
everything.
like for me, it's more the information that I love. The process is like, but we ended up renting movies out. So I tell people like movies were like my babysitters when I was growing up. So like I would get like a whole bunch of movies. My mom would like have me watch them to really just entertain myself as a kid while my mom left to go to school at night, and then she would come home late, and so I was just watching movies. So I grew up watching movies, and it's a good way I learned English pretty quickly. And then on top of that, like just I fell in love with just honestly film in general, but I didn't really know it like that at the time. um and then just kind of fast forward up to I want to say like my middle school like life. I was always selling candy in school to make some money so I can like buy things that I wanted. Cause I would have friends who were, had not necessarily, they weren't rich, but they had, I had a few friends who were rich. And then I had majority of my friends were just well off, like they're just high middle class. And so a lot of them would get like new shoes and the newest everything. And I was always really like jealous. And then I knew my mom worked really hard, but my mom would tell me no. She would always like say, hey, like there's a way we can get that. And she would, invest at least $20 to like go to Sam's Club and get like a big box of like chocolate and then I would go
Wholesale.
to school. Yeah, literally, yeah. Go to school and flip it. And then even though it was illegal technically, and then I would go during lunchtime, I would bring like I
That's
wouldn't even bring
illegal?
lunch. Yeah, it's illegal. It's not, I don't want to say
You're
it's
soliciting in a school.
yeah, because you're taking away from the money that the school could be fundraising or making. Because schools sell like they have
All that
vending
stuff,
machines,
yeah.
they have like whatever. So it's like almost like you're stealing business. So it's competition they don't want.
God, I love capitalism,
Yeah,
baby.
I know, right? And so I wouldn't even bring lunch, dude. I would just have all this candy in my lunchbox, and then I would just I would just walk around like, hey, who wants like, and everybody, I mean, kids love
Yo,
candy, bro.
I'm dead, dude.
And
That's
dude, they'll
hilarious.
figure it out, bro. They'll figure out how to get that money, bro. They'll go in their mom's purse.
I
and
need the Snickers, bro.
Yeah, dude, for real, man. And then I kind of continuously did that in middle school. And I like bought a lot of stuff, dude. I learned how to like, I bought like my whole, I got a Wii, I bought the whole garage band set. And I was like, kind of like always like trying to buy the next thing. Cause I would always flip. Like I would always take a percentage, buy more candy, and I would just keep doing that.
Dang, so you learn like basic economics like from the jump.
Yeah. And that was 100% my mom, dude. Like it's so funny because my mom has actually, she's passed down a lot of things. She, I think, unknowingly passed down entrepreneurship because she doesn't have a high risk level. And she's more like on the traditional side of like she want to go to college, all this stuff, and then she actually has like a few limiting mindsets around money, which we're like trying to break off that myself and off her. But that's one of the biggest things that she really like embedded into me at a young age, and it kind of opened up a whole world where I was like, I can. It made things super like easy to do and very possible from a young age. Because I feel like when I was a kid, I was like, how do I get a job? And like obviously when I was like in middle school, you can't really get a job unless you got like a friend of a friend kind of thing. So I learned how to do that, and then finally I kind of like ran out of things to buy. Like I was like I got my Wii, I got my garage band set, I got all these things that I like, and to me that I like. I had my Game Boy, and then I was like,
As a kid, that's everything.
Yeah. I was like, I'm good. But then we were going on a field trip to Orlando, which is like I think we're going to like Islands of Adventure or something like that. And then all the kids were getting disposable cameras to take pictures on the trip and stuff. And then I was like, oh, that's dope. And I always like to be like different and like one up everybody. So I was like, well, I want to get like an actual camera, like a digital camera, so I can see the photo there and then, you know what I mean? And then I bought this really crappy camera from Walmart and did that. And it was cool. But the thing is, afterwards, I still used it. And then I was kind of telling you the story before. We ended up, I came up with these cables, and I was like, oh, what do these cables do? So I plugged it in the camera, and then I put those three, like the white, red, and the yellow into the back of the TV. And then it was really cool because then we can see ourselves on the TV, and we're like, this is actually really like dope. It's like almost like we're in a movie. And then like we would just have it like almost like webcam style, and we would just like look at ourselves and do like dumb stuff. And then we took it to the next level. We're like, why don't we record something like, and then come back and then play it and watch it. And then we did that. And
Just
then
making home videos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we did that. It was great. And then I took it to the next level where it's like, why don't we do that, but then post it on YouTube? And then
what year is this?
Dude, this is like, oh man, this is like when YouTube was fresh.
Okay.
I want to say
2010, 11.
Dude, oh man, I want to say 2009.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like pretty fresh.
Yeah, super.
And then and this is when like all these like, you know, YouTubers were coming up, like making dumb videos. So I'm over here thinking I'm gonna be the next one, and obviously that didn't happen. But I was posting these videos uncut, like just straight like raw, like just record and then just post, and then I just became really obsessed. I was like, this is really cool. And I would look at these other people's videos and I'm like, how did they do that? Like, how does this like look better than mine? And then I was looking at like, okay, cool. So it looks like they have different angles. So they have to stop recording and start recording. So then we're like, okay, cool. We're not doing just the one shot anymore.
One long take.
Yeah, we're gonna like plan it out. So then we started doing the different shots, and then I had to learn how to edit, which I did on Windows Movie Maker, piecing all the puzzles together. And then that was fun for me. And then it came out so much better. I'm like, this is really cool. And then that's when I feel like I got better at it. Then I was like, all right, cool. Then why does this guy still look better than mine? And then it's like, okay, well, he's shooting at a certain like 1080p, which was like the 4K back then. I was like, and I'm shooting at 720, and I was like, okay, like I got to get a better camera. So I sold more candy. I got my first good camera was a Canon, and then from there, I you know, it was already a level up. And then from there, I'm like, okay, like why does like my audio sound so trash? You know, like these guys, it sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Like it makes no sense. And then I was looking into it, and then I had to like get, it's like, oh, you need a mic. But then the camera that I had, the Canon, was a photo Canon camera that does video too, but there was no input for a mic. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know about synchronizing back then. And like, obviously like lavalier mics and all these equipment, like audio equipment, like as easy it is to get today, like you can go to Walmart and get like a whole content creator kit, like super easy. It comes with a mic, camera, tripod, everything. None of that was accessible in stores. All that stuff was like, you
needed buku money for that.
100%. You had to go online to like B&H, or you had to go to like, maybe Amazon probably had some, but Amazon was still like
fresh.
Not like fresh. And then obviously this market wasn't as common yet. So it was hard to like get like
access
equipment. Yeah. And so it was really either really crappy stuff or really expensive stuff. Like now there's a lot of intermediate in the middle.
Dude, there's
stuff.
so many levels, man.
Yeah,
like
dude.
Depending on your budget, there is a piece of equipment for you now.
Yeah. Yeah. Now there's like that good in the middle, but back then there wasn't that. So then I had to like say, I'm like, I got to not only buy a camera, but I got to buy a mic too to go with it. So then I had to like get in my hustle again, do that. And then I made these like a series of videos that were just so dumb and like, it was just the stupidest thing ever, bro. But everybody in my middle school loved it, dude. It was just the dumbest thing. It was such a weird time in my life, but I'm glad I did it because, you know, I have all this footage of me growing up that I can show my kids, that I can just like I can create a documentary if I want to, because I have that footage, and I'm so grateful for that. Even though I look like a fool, you know what I mean? But and then I ended up, once I was like towards the end of high school or the end of middle school, early high school, is where I stepped up my game on like my audio was good, visuals were good, storytelling was better. It was still like not the best,
sure,
but it got a lot better for sure. And then I would always like I would always try to like convince people, hey, you want to be in this video? And it wasn't until people started liking them where like, oh, now I want to be in your video. So it was like kind of like a little, like obviously I wasn't big on YouTube, but like within my community, like people like liked it.
Yeah.
And I ended up just kind of like just really doing that all the time during summer. Like I never went to like summer camp or anything. So I would have my friends come over while mom's working, and then I would feel I didn't feel bad at the time, but I feel bad now. Like as an adult, like my mom would come home from work, and then I have like a whole bunch of like kids in her home, like dressed up and like just doing something dumb. And I just tell her, hey, just go in your room. We're almost done.
Yeah.
And I was just like, imagine being an adult, like walking in on that, like just wanted to chill at home. And then you have all these kids like acting like idiots, you know? So, but I feel bad for it now, but it was.
So you were like loving the process of
dude, yeah, I loved
the
it,
camera, the editing, and all that good stuff.
I loved it, man. And then I ended up leveling up my editing as well through Sony Vegas,
right.
Bootleg that. And then it was mid. And then I ended up realizing, oh, everybody uses like Adobe, Adobe Premiere, After Effects, and then I couldn't pay for that. Well, I didn't like at the time. I just like I didn't see it. Like, why would I pay like 200 plus for a software when I could buy a camera equipment? So I bootlegged that, and I was really big on like jailbreaking my iPhone and bootlegging movies. So I was like, this is just another thing to bootleg. But like it was rough, man, because I mean the bootlegs they're trash, dude.
I've never tried the bootleg route, but I've always knew, because when I contemplated getting Premiere, I'm like, dude, do I really want to spend? And this is a student discount. Do I really want to spend $29 a month?
Yeah.
Like,
And
or
that's
I could
back
just pirate
then.
this.
And this, yeah, exactly. You could pirate it. And that's back then they used to just sell it up front. You don't have to pay all that, like the monthly fee. But even then, dude, like it's just so bad because it would always crash. So, I mean, it made me a better editor in the sense of being really fast and always like, I'm in a habit of control save all the time.
Dude,
like I control save. Like, I don't even think
every move
about
I make is like my pinky and then my index finger.
100%, dude. And I tell my team that all the time because they didn't have to go through that, but I always like, I am like, I had to go through the mistakes so that way you guys don't have to.
Right.
But it made me a faster editor. It made me quicker, and then really just like more diligent, because the amount of times that I've worked on a project for hours and it crashes and I have to start over, bro, like was way
depressing.
too many. Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, bro, and I'm over here, like, I'm thinking I'm going to finish it. It's like 2 a.m. Like, it's going to be a banger. I'm gonna put it on YouTube. I'm gonna blow up and then crash. And I'm like, oh my God. So I got to stay up another couple hours, and then I don't sleep that night. And then I post it, and it doesn't even blow up. Like it's just like, I enjoyed the process. So I loved it, and I didn't really care. And then that's kind of when I fell in love with it. And then I ended up going to high school, and I ended up just doing yearbook stuff because I liked to take photos too. It was high school is when I was like, you know what, I wanted to dabble in photos, and photos were really easy to me. Like this is easy because I started in video, and then photos were just light work. And then I started to pretty much do like, I can do a video for like, events at the school, and then I would volunteer, and it would give me like, hall passes and all that stuff. So I did that. And then after I graduated high school, I pretty much decided I wasn't going to college because I didn't want to pay for it. And I also it didn't make sense. I was like, I hated school personally. Like I wasn't like the best at it. I was good at making it look like I was good at school, like on paper, because I just cheated, but I wasn't really that good, and it was hard for me to actually really care. And I was like, why would I do, like, I went 12 years of doing school, and then why would I do another 4, but this time I got to pay for it?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that made no sense. And I wasn't trying to be a doctor or anything like that. And I even, like, the high school I went to was it was a trade school. So it was like half high school, half trade. So I got to learn a trade, which was, enough to be able to, like, I can leave high school and get a job, like as a machinist, which is the trade that I got certified in. And even everything that I did, I always brought videography into it. Because even when I was in trade school doing machining, we had a project on how to like teach people like the fundamentals on like making sure that you do everything on this checklist to ensure the machine's good, and then all these safety stuff and how to make it engaging, because our teacher was very innovative. He's like, how can we make this better all the time? And so I was like, why don't we just make a video? So we made a video for it, and then we made it like funny and like just dumb, and then but it was entertaining. It was and it had the facts. And it was so stupid, but I brought it into that, and he loved it. And he even like I visited him maybe about like a year ago, and he tells me he still shows that video to his class. And I was like, man, that's embarrassing, bro. Like don't do that. And then and he he enjoyed that, and he was a good teacher. He was very like like everybody has their skill set, and he saw that was mine. And so he would always encourage me to do like video stuff for like, he's like, oh, we have a project coming up, or we're like, because he would always try to get checks from the state to be like, oh, like donate this much money to this trade school, and so we would do videos to like send to them, and we'd get those checks and stuff to be able to buy more equipment for the school and stuff. So he was good at like kind of like honing in that. And then right when I was in the middle between kind of graduating, I was in my stats class, and I was like, man, like I was, I had senioritis, so I would like sleep the first couple classes during the day, and then my last period was my trade school or my trade class, and I would just chill there. But when I was in stats, I was about to like fall asleep, but then he starts talking about like college stats. and he's like saying how about 20% or less of people who go to college and pay for a degree use that actual degree for what they went to college for. And I was like, that is terrible. That's not even a good, that's not even doesn't even give me hope, like. And at this point, like I actually, right until this point, I was debating going to college because our school's very it's also a college. So it's like, and it's very college has a college layout. Like we have semesters, and it was a great school. Like my mom, shout out to mom, she put me in that school. I was not supposed to go to that school.
It wasn't a public school.
No, it wasn't public.
Gotcha.
My public school, bro, was terrible. Like stabbings every other week. Like it was terrible, bro. I think now
sounds
it's
like my
better.
high school.
Yeah, it was rough, dude. And it's so funny because all my friends went there, and my middle school was bad. High school was just an evolution of that, and it was just with more kids and just terrible. And then my mom didn't want me to go there because it's just had a bad rap. Right. And it's just, honestly, if I did go there, I'd probably end up like either a drug dealer or who knows, bro. And
so you're trying to figure out from high school, what are you gonna do with your life after you see the statistics of
the degree pretty much. Yeah, I was like, up until that point, I was actually because they kind of prime you from freshman year to like want to go to college. And we had a project that every freshman has to do, which you have to pick a college you want to go to, look at how much it's going to cost, and then what are the key whatever, and then you have to present it and why you want to go there and all this stuff. And I chose coincidentally UCLA. Because I always wanted to go to California. I was like, I love, California looks dope, especially because I grew up watching movies and California was, the spot.
LA.
Yeah, dude. So I chose UCLA because I was like, I don't want to be in Florida anymore. And then I was very convinced of that. But then once I was in senior year, I was like, you know what? I'm not good at this, and I'm definitely not getting any scholarships, and I don't have any money. So, and then these stats are terrible. So even if I did, I don't want to do that. And then I kind of just realized that that's not what I want to do. And then when I was in middle school, my older stepbrother graduated from boot camp. He graduated as a Marine, and I mean he's cool dude. I don't really have a relationship with him, to be honest. But because he graduated, and as a family we went to go his graduation, I was exposed to that, and I was like always really hooked to like that. And so I told myself I wanted to become a Marine when I was like in 6th grade. And then my mom was like, you don't know, you're young. You don't know what you're saying. And then, so when I kind of, going back to that point in place in time where I was like, I don't want to go to college, I was like, I actually want to be a Marine. And then, so I kind of just after that, I went to go, join the Marine Corps, sign the contract, all that stuff. And then I went right after high school, but there was like a month waiting period. And I got fired from my job. I was working at an embroidery spot, making shirts and stuff. And they fired me because they realized that I wasn't going to be here during the summer. Mm-hmm. And they're like, that's when we get the most business. There's no point in training you. And they fired me. And then, so I had no job and I didn't not making money. So then I ended up working for a gym, making their YouTube videos. And that was the first time I ever got paid as a creative. And I was like, this is dope. I mean, it wasn't great money, but it was dope. I mean, I enjoyed it. I felt like I was like having fun. And then I ended up just kind of telling him, hey, I'm leaving. And I set him up with another guy. So that way he was set up for success. And right. It's just, I don't want to be that guy. And then I went to the Marine Corps, and then I kind of didn't really do a lot of video stuff just because I couldn't. I can bring my stuff. But the second that I started to get freedom again, like when I went to schooling, I had my GoPro and my laptop, and then I would make dumb videos again. Because I always had like that it's so weird. Like there's times in my life where I would feel slightly like empty or depressed, and I would have an itch to want to make something. Like I just want to make something. It doesn't have to be like the coolest thing. I just want to make something. And then we were very limited on what we could do on that base because you're Marines and you're limited. There's a lot of rules and regulations because Marines do dumb stuff. And then so you the only thing we could really do is like get bikes, like rent bikes for the day, and then just like ride around the base and then have a little private beach and stuff. So that's what we did, bro. And then I filmed the whole thing, and I made it into something really cool. And I was and then kind of like kept doing that. And then I ended up getting stationed in California, which was awesome. And I'm like, dude, this place is perfect. And then from there, I just kind of started doing that like more travel exploring kind of vibe videos where we'd go to me and my friends would go to abandoned spots, shoot cool videos. And then I started like offering my services to like local rappers and, doing
And this
weddings.
is while you're still in the military.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
On the side. And then I was making money on the side. And then I was very when I was in the Marine Corps, I was like, I'm only doing this temporarily. I'm here for my benefits and here for like, you know, to set myself up for success.
Oh, so you knew that already, that you're going to do the 4 and out.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I was like, I'm going in and I'm going to complete my contract. And unless like something happened where I really enjoyed it. You know, I ended up.
Before we go to the video spot, did you enjoy the military life?
It was rough. It was rough in a really weird way. I got screwed over on my contract. So my recruiter, bro, wherever this man is, dude. I mean, it was a blessing in disguise. But he screwed me over for some reason. On my paperwork said I wasn't a citizen, and I lost my clearance. And to regain your clearance is like a headache and a half. And so most of my career, I couldn't do the job that I was assigned. But I ended up getting into another job that I ended up loving my whole career, which was pretty much to be a marksmanship instructor. So I got to teach people how to shoot pistols and rifles. And I learned that I love to teach, and I love to shoot, and I love guns. And I didn't really grow up with guns because my mom was anti-guns, and she was like, 'cause in Colombia it's really violent. So for her, she's like super passive. But yeah, my mom was extremely passive. So she was like, she didn't even let me have Nerf guns, bro. Like I wasn't allowed. Water guns were a no go. Right. So I learned that I love guns, and I love to teach. And then.
So you're doing high school, or you're doing music videos at this point.
Yeah, so I'm doing that on the side, and like weddings and all this stuff, and doing like some gigs, like photography.
And at this point, what's your camera gear looking like?
Dude, I had like, I had a Canon T3i and like some crappy lenses and GoPro and the GoPro Karma drone, which was trash.
Dude, you actually own that one?
Dude, it was trash.
That one like really flopped.
Dude, it was bad, bro. It was so bad to the point where like, first of all, I have a scar from it because it's just I had to try to catch it
because it won't land.
Yeah, and it cut me, dude, and pretty bad. I honestly underestimated the plastic blades. I didn't realize they were. I mean, at the speed they're sharp. It makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, dude, it was bad. The day I realized I had
probably the only one that I ever known that's ever actually purchased that, because then like 2 weeks later the Mavic came out.
That's true. Yeah, I completely like was like, man. But the reason why I got it though is because they had a good deal. At least they made it look like a good deal. It was like the drone with the GoPro and then the handheld gimbal.
The gimbal, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you get all that together. And I'm like, oh, it's like a 3-in-1, you know, versus like the Mavic is just the drone. Right. So and it's like roughly the same price. But
it was marketed great. I mean, that video, when that video came out, it was like, I was sold. I was ready to buy it. And then DJI came out a week later, like, nah, bro, wait, dude, hold my beer.
Good move, bro. It was trash. The day I realized it was trash was when dude, it's a bad piece of technology in general. Yeah. But it was 4th of July. Actually, it was like maybe, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago. And I went to go fly it to like, you know, get some firework shots. And it lost control. Like it wouldn't like listen to me. Like I was trying to like have it come back, but it kept going into the ocean. And I was like, I don't want it to go in the ocean because I don't want to lose it. And then it was like a fight. Like I would have it come this way, and then it would go for a little bit, and then it would want to go its own thing. And then I couldn't get it to land. Like, and there was a lot of people on the beach. And on like it was in La Jolla, so it was like, you know, people were just chilling, like tourists and all, you know.
So you got to catch
family. So I'm like, I either have to catch it, but it's still sketch because it was a lot of people, more than usual. That place is already packed, but more than usual because it's 4th of July. And dude, I just had to crash it into a pole because it was the only bet that I can do. I had to crash into a pole and then I had to catch it, and then, you know, I messed up the propellers and. But it was still good. It was still intact. Like the drone was good, and I just sold it and I bought the other one. I bought the Mavic. So I was like, dude, this is not a good drone. But.
So you're getting into weddings, you're getting into music video, and how you get in this business? So just like word of mouth, or?
Yeah, man. Oh, so word of mouth and Craigslist, which is not. I don't advise. All the stuff I got from Craigslist were weird, bro. One of them was good. One of them was a guy that I met. He was. Oh, dude, I forgot his name, bro. But he was like his like production name is, because he's also a videographer, is like Nova. And he's a cool dude. He's a really good dude. He was very passionate about music videos, but he hired me to shoot him and his wife as a like they wanted to do a video for their anniversary, and just as a videographer. So like I didn't do any editing. Mm-hmm. I ended up editing it for my own portfolio, but so I met him and he would help. He would like, you know, help me get some other gigs, and he would pass off some gigs to me. Really cool guy. And at that point, I actually had some skater kid wanted to do a video, and he like crashed into my camera, and then it broke, and then I ended up buying the Lumix GH5,
Okay.
which was my first 4K camera.
Still a decent camera.
It's still a good I still have it like
Nice.
today. And yeah, I let like we have a program here for people who want to learn. Like we take interns in, and then we let them use that camera if they want to take it like to go do stuff. They can just borrow it. But it's a good camera, bro. It's still pretty relevant.
Great
I feel
stabilization.
Like. Yeah, it's a good camera though. And then that was the first time I shot in 4K, and I was like, dude, this is clean. It's crisp. And so it was really dope, man. I really enjoyed that camera. And from there, I was just I started getting weird gigs, like this one dude. It was actually that same guy. He's like, hey, bro, you want to shoot a concert? And I was like, that sounds so dope. Yeah, for sure. I'll shoot a concert. And then he's like, yeah, man, I can't do it. So here's the guy's info. And I texted him. He sent me the address. And then I told my buddy, who was actually he was one of my best friends. He still is my best friend from Florida. He joined the Marine Corps as well. He got stationed out here, and he wanted to learn videography and photography for the longest. So every time I had gigs like that were cool, I would invite him. So I was like, hey bro, come with me to this concert. And he's like, cool. He met me there. And then we show up as this like weird plaza. I'm like, doesn't feel like a concert would be here. But I mean, you never know. You know, it might be like a speakeasy kind of style thing. And then we show up, and then there's this like huge like Arabic bodyguard. And I was like, okay, you know, this kind of gives me a little bit more concert kind of vibes. And then I told him, I was like, hey, I'm here to meet this guy. And he's like, okay, cool, come on in. And then, bro, it's an Arabic wedding. And I wasn't shooting the Arabic wedding. I was shooting the guy who was hired to sing at the Arabic wedding. Okay. But still, bro, first of all, it wasn't a concert. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But second of all, bro, nobody spoke English besides one guy who attended the wedding. And he was just kind enough to like be a translator.
Sure.
And then the guy who hired me, but he showed up late. And he was only there for a brief period of time, but I was there early. And then so I'm over here like I don't know like what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm like what is this? And then my buddy shows up and he's like, what are we doing here? And I felt so bad. And then so the really nice guy who was translating, he was like, hey man, like we're eating right now, so if you want to grab some food, you're more than welcome.
That's nice enough.
Yeah, I was like, okay, cool, yeah. And then I was like, well, we're good. Like I'm not hungry. And he's like, well, it's kind of rude if you don't get some food. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll get some food then. And then my buddy got some food, and it was very like, it wasn't your traditional like Americanized Arabic food. It was, I had no idea what I was eating. I mean, I was cool with it. I ate it, but my buddy has a very sensitive stomach. Oof. So he was getting wrecked, dude, the whole time. He had to leave early, and to the point where he was literally speeding to go home, and he got pulled over because he was speeding, and he's like, I'm sure you hear this all the time, but I really, really got to shit. Like I'm
he couldn't go to the wedding?
Yeah, dude. Like there was no bathrooms like that were available. It's a
wedding.
Because dude. It was like a restaurant. But they wouldn't let it's like one of those restaurants where the bathrooms are only for the employees.
Sure.
And I feel like he also was like very like, he's like, I don't want to like ruin it.
Yeah. So, he's gonna blow it up.
Yeah. So he was like very like, because it was a plaza. He could have gone next door, to something else. And but it was a really weird experience.
Did the artist end up showing up?
He ended up showing up. He paid me.
At least he got paid.
Yeah, he paid me. It was good.
I thought it was gonna be a lot weirder than.
No, yeah, it was overall worked out. But I was just like, I'm never going in blind again, dude. Like, to a shoot like that.
It's funny you say that the artist hired a videographer, because a couple of weeks ago I just did a wedding, and the DJ also hired a videographer, and I was the lead shooter. Mm-hmm. And I show up and I see this chick with a camera. I'm like, oh, who are you? Because I already have my second shooter with me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm with the DJ. I'm like, just to film? It's like, yeah, like what kind of stuff? Like, oh, just like personal content, like content's everything at this point.
Yeah. 100%.
And I'm like, all right, it's interesting. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it's a thing. Like the DJ
sense.
had his own videographer. I mean, but
so they can build their.
But it's like, what can you capture? Though I was trying to figure out what to capture besides you pressing a few buttons. And DJs don't kill me out here. But it's really what he was doing, like, so I was trying to understand, like, what can you capture for like 4 hours of just him constantly pressing buttons?
Yeah, I know, right? And just kind of like, a
little bit of maybe, like, I don't know. It's interesting.
It's interesting, man. There's a lot of really, like, I mean, I did a lot of weddings and, like concerts, not concert style. That was not a concert. I don't count that. Like, but things like that, like very out of pocket stuff. And you meet a lot of very interesting people. Mm-hmm. It's really, that's one thing I enjoyed, because again, I was a Marine living on a Marine base, and dude, my whole life was Marine Corps, bro. All my friends were Marines. And it's like, I hated that a little bit, because it made it feel like everything about my life is Marine Corps. So when I got to step out and like meet people who I didn't know before that are not military, it was really cool. So it was a good way for me to do that. And then,
So at this point, you're freelancing for the most part.
yeah, I was freelancing. Yeah.
And then you leave the military after 4 years, and you're still doing the freelance world.
Yeah, well, actually, there's a kind of like a little gap in between. So I ended up, I was freelancing, and then I kind of started doing more like travel stuff because I would go on vacation every year, and I would do more of that. And me and my wife would go to like local museums that were just dope, and I would do stuff like that. Then we bought a house, and my computer completely crapped out, and I didn't have like a lot of money to spend on a new computer, and I wanted a desktop, but my wife wouldn't let me get a desktop because it would just look all weird in the living room. And then my same buddy who was with me at that Arabic wedding rented out the other room, and I didn't want to like invade on his space. So I was like, well, we have a garage that I don't use, so I'm gonna make that into my office, and that took 2 years to do. So I took almost like a 2-year break. I didn't shoot anything, didn't edit anything, and I got really into business.
Okay.
So I got really into like, okay, like, because once I bought my house, I was like, I really want to like make sure I actually continue this evolution of being better with my money, investing my money, and like really like actually duplicating what I have versus like living paycheck to paycheck. And
Yeah,
that's kind of how
and
I
you've
was.
always had that gene from the jump from flipping.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of like, I really love that. So it kind of tapped back into that. And then, so I was like, how can I make money while being in the Marine Corps? And I stopped freelancing on the side. Because that was the way I was making money, but it was still, I was still trading my time for dollars. So how can I do it without necessarily doing that? Because I didn't have a lot of time. Because I was working like 12-hour days, sometimes 14-hour days. 12-hour days was like the least amount. 14-hour days was like usually the norm. And then I ended up I went to all these seminars, started reading these books. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, really like, okay, I'm gonna do everything that I can because I didn't have any mentors. So like for me, I was like, if I don't have any mentors, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna buy books, and those will be my mentors.
I think that's a solid thing to say. Like if for anyone that's like looking to find mentors, it's really hard to get a mentor. You need to have some sort of trade value. But if you don't, dude, books are your best friend.
100%, man. And it really like positioned me to really like actually, I mean, I literally would read the book and do what they say. Like it's not that hard. And then I even got to the point where like kind of like before I got my first property. So I kind of like my entrepreneurship I guess like side was always intentional. So I was freelancing, doing all that stuff because when I was in the Marine Corps, all I didn't go party, I didn't go to strip clubs, I didn't drink, I didn't do any of that.
Typical Marine stuff.
Yeah, literally. I would go to work, and I would go into my room, and my room wasn't even set up, bro. My room was everybody would like put flags up and put like decor. I was like, no, bro, I'm gonna have very basic stuff because I'm not gonna be here for a long time. And then I would just go and edit, and the only time I would leave was either to get food or to do gigs. And I was just kind of racking up my money. And then I got married. And then I was like, okay, we're going to rent out, but I don't want to waste my money renting on like an apartment complex. I want to be very intentional. So then I ended up finding a spot on Craigslist. I don't know why I always went on Craigslist, dude. It was, I don't know why. But anyways.
I'm like scared of that website. I've never been around Craigslist, and I never want to be around it.
Yeah. And I went on Craigslist, found, I was looking for a place to rent. I was like, I'm going to look for a detached guest home, because those are usually on a really nice property. So then I found a detached guest home, and then it was in Escondido, and it looked really nice. It looked actually kind of like almost like fake, but the guy said, hey, come by, you're more than welcome to look. And he was a retired Army officer, and he has his doctorate degree and does real estate, and he like worked for this company and all this stuff. And he was a great guy. And then we're like, hey, we'll take it. The property itself that we were living in was very tiny, but the property as a whole was beautiful. There was a like beautiful pool, beautiful view, like fireplace, and he would let us use that. And we got really close with them because he had a baby right after we moved in, and my wife was really good with kids. She became their nanny, and they became like our family. And he was the one who told me to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he had all these investment properties.
Shouts to Craigslist, man.
For real, dude. And he's the one who pushed me to buy a home, even though he was my landlord. Like he was like, yeah, you need to invest in real estate, blah blah blah. And then my goal was within a year. I only wanted to rent for a year. And so at my 10-month mark, my wife and I decided to start looking for a home. At our 11-month mark was when we got our home. But when I went to go tell him, I felt like bad because he's my landlord. I feel like he's not gonna be happy that I'm leaving.
I mean, if he's encouraging you,
Yeah,
man.
and he's like, dude, like, let's do it. He's like, I'll help you find a good property that you'll like, but also it has, you know, a high chance of bringing you an ROI that you can rent out later down the line, blah, 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 blah. And he did. And then even on top of that, bro, he went above and beyond. He helped me get that property. And he bought all the furniture for it, which was like, you know, a blessing because, dude, like, that's expensive because we were living in such a small space to like expand the home that we have.
One thing I recently heard, not too long, I'm trying to figure out where, but we're talking about mentors, and whoever said this, they said like a good solid mentor wants you to win and succeed. Like a sus one, like they want to help you out, but they don't want you to do better than them.
100%.
So like a real mentor like really wants to push you, like, yo, man, I know you're renting from me, but it's like, I still want you to win. Go get that property. I could always find another tenant.
100%. And that's the same attitude he had. He's like, bro, like, he let me leave early, and with that, like, he let me break my lease, and he was really cool with that. And then he had a beautiful property, bro. He wasn't having an issue. And I think for sure, bro, like, I mean, I'm a Christian, so I feel like it was a God thing, because when he was putting his listing out, like, to rent, he told me, bro, nobody came. He's like, I think that the pictures that I put were too nice because everybody thinks it's a scam. He's like, because nobody would show up. He's like, you're the only person who showed up.
And you thought it was sus.
Yeah, I thought it was sus, but I was like, I'm as long as long as he says that I can come over, because I had another guy like that was sus, and it really was a scam. And I was like, hey, can I come by and take a look? He was like, yeah, you could just drive by it. And then he's like, then you can give me a deposit and I'll give you the key. I'm like,
nah,
that's dumb. So then, but this guy was like, hey, you can come in, check it out. So I'm like, okay, that can't be sus, you know, like if you're telling me to come look at the spot. And then it worked out, man. And then as soon as I moved out, bro, he got a tenant in like less than a month. So I think for sure, you know, it worked out. And he would always use me to take his family photos and because he had other properties, take photos of his properties to put on to list and stuff. So he ended up moving to Oregon during 2020, which kind of fast forward to like building up to kind of where I got back into videography. I had all this entrepreneurial like insight. I started pretty much doing everything that this book said to do. So I started learning about calls and puts, investing in the stock market, doing really just, you know, trading options. I got good at it, but then I didn't like that it was all the only thing that I was learning was really risk management and how to like read the market. And I just kind of got really depressed because I was always in the media. Like I always had to watch the news because everything has to do, like every stock, especially if you're doing options, because it's a short trade. You have to be very in tune with what's going on in the world. Like Elon Musk can tweet something and it can
change the whole market.
Everything. So you have to be very in tune with that. And I was so like, like in it that like it was like secondhand smoke.
Yeah, and it's like depression. The media is not giving you positive stuff. Yeah, once in a blue moon you'll get a sprinkle here and there, but for the most part, it's just negativity.
100%. And even though I knew that going in, I know that the media is BS. It's still like because it's constantly what I'm intaking. My body would just respond to it.
I like the analogy of secondhand smoke. It's very it correlates
exactly right. Like I may not be smoking, but you know because I may know the side effects of smoking and I may not participate, but just because I'm in the area, I'm around it. You are getting affected by it, and that's exactly what happened. And I didn't feel fulfilled, and so I was like, I want to like start a business. Because I want to develop people. I want to like not only make money.
And how old are you at this point? Because bro, you look like you're 22 years old right now.
Dude, I'm 25 right now.
At that not point, too far off.
Yeah. At that point, I was 20. Yeah, I was 20.
That's a crazy mindset to have at 20, bro. At 20, I was a fuckhead. I'm telling you.
Funny, dude. Yeah, I was 20, man. Because I bought my home at 20, and that same year I was like on that grind.
That's goals.
And at 21 was where I started. I was already like an entrepreneur in the sense of like. I went back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read the book because my one mentor that helped me with the real estate, all he knew was real estate, and I really couldn't do anything else with real estate because I didn't have capital because I was working really in the Marine Corps, and then I had money from the stock market, but I made that my emergency fund because I was like, that's how I'm going to build my emergency fund, and then I just didn't want to do that anymore. So then I put a hard pause on that. And then I didn't have enough capital that I knew of. Maybe there was, knowing now, like if there's probably a lot of strategies I could have dived into with real estate, but it's also a lot of time that I didn't have with the Marine Corps. So I was like, maybe let's go back to this book. And then Robert Kiyosaki was saying in his book, he said to join some type of sales team or MLM to gain the skills of developing, teaching, recruiting. And I was like, okay, cool, say less. So then I was looking for a network marketing company to be a part of, and a lot of them are trash out there, and I didn't like the way most of them were trying to pitch me. And then I kind of gave up, and then a buddy of mine named Daniel Wilgenbush, he invited me to this other company, and I love the way he communicated. I love the way his mentor communicated, and they were all about financial literacy, and that was kind of what gravitated me towards it, where it's like, this is actual business. Like, they're teaching business. They're not just teaching like, hey, you got to like just call a whole bunch of people and like
cold call 1,000 people in 8 hours.
Exactly, right. Like, they're teaching like how to actually structure things like a business, how to multiply your time, things like that. And the cool thing was that, because I really loved Robert Kiyosaki at the time, and then the mentor, Daniel's mentor, his name was Rick. He became my mentor later on. He was mentored by Robert Kiyosaki. He was also in real estate.
Full circle.
Which is really cool. And then I got to learn a lot of that stuff from him. He does other things too, where he does like he had other businesses, traditional businesses, and he invested in the gemstone industry. So he had a lot of diversity within business as a whole, and I learned a lot from him. And I pay a lot of respect and a lot of things that I know about business to him.
And did you like pay some sort of fee to be involved in these conversations or trade seas? I'm curious. For those that are like wondering, like, well, how'd you get your foot in the door?
Yeah. So honestly, bro, so MLM is one of the best structure wise in business, because
MLM in plain English for me.
Oh yeah.
In layman's terms, what's that?
Multi-level marketing.
Gotcha.
So it's network marketing. Just another way of saying it is one of the best structures business wise. Because even now, bro, as I'm building my business, a lot of the structures that I use are similar. Even if
wouldn't people call that a pyramid scheme?
Yeah, 100%, dude. And I love when people say. I mean, I love controversy.
Yeah. I'm playing devil's advocate right now.
No, for sure.
Because I actually was involved in a multi-level marketing. I almost said scheme.
I mean,
before, so I kind of have a glimpse of what it was.
So and again, bro, like any industry, there's a lot of good and a lot of bad. Some have more than others. I feel like network marketing has kind of gained this like taboo name for it, but from its base, it's a great method. It's a great model. When people say that it's a pyramid scheme, like legally, it's most network marketing companies are not pyramid schemes because it's illegal. It's actually illegal to do that. A pyramid scheme would be if somebody were to come in and sell you on something but never give you a product. So like that's why if you go to a lot of these companies, you have to buy a product. If there's no product,
I'm just thinking about like Herbalife right now, for example.
Yeah. So Herbalife, technically, legally, is not a pyramid scheme because they have.
I mean, they've been around forever. So I mean,
but
obviously,
they did have an issue though back then because they had it like a problem where I don't remember the logistics of it, but I know they went through a lawsuit because of like pyramid scheme activities, and they just had to shift the way they were doing stuff. That's why they're still around. There's a lot of them that did not make it because they were pyramid schemes, or sometimes they weren't pyramid schemes, but they were just doing illegal things, like kind of like any other business, right?
Yeah,
I
mean,
like a bank, they were like cutting corners or things like that. So, but then they just say, oh, like it was a pyramid scheme. But at a fundamental, everybody, I feel like what mainly people get scared of, I think, is the scheme. The word scheme really is what scares people away. But then because pyramid, right? So you think pyramid scheme.
So you're building someone up instead.
Yeah, exactly. But then if you look at any model in business, education, government, everything's a pyramid.
Or even a job.
Yeah, everything's a pyramid. Yeah. So like everything has a base and then it moves all the way to the top. Everybody at the top, there's a limited amount of space. Like if you look at our government structured the same way. There's one president, but underneath that you have like
branches and levels.
And it just goes down. And in a business, you have a CEO, you have a CFO, and then you have the board of advisors, and you have all these things, right? So and then it goes all the way down to the basic employees.
I've always seen that from when I was involved in that MLM. Someone, I'll never forget this guy. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to be part of a pyramid scheme." But and I flipped it. I'm like, think about it. Everything is a pyramid scheme.
100%.
Like, your job is a pyramid scheme. And I was like 20 years old too, just like saying shit like that. And it's like, it went way past their head. I'm like, all right, man, you got it, dude. You got it.
100%. And the thing is, honestly, bro, if there is actual like a pyramid scheme that's been very active, is college, because college is one of the biggest scams, bro. They do that. They sell you on something that's not really a product. It's really the service of education, obviously, but there's no guaranteed result. And if the result is not, doesn't happen, there's no way to get a refund. So like, for example, at least the company that I was part of is you could get a 90% refund completely like.
So there's some sort of insurance right there.
Exactly. You can get a 90% refund if you don't feel like there's a result. Same thing with the products. Like if you like buy the products and you're like, hey, I don't think the products were good, you can get a 90% refund. The only thing you pay for is the shipping.
Right.
But college doesn't even do that. But yeah, man, like I learned a lot about business and business models and how to structure them. The one thing I like about MLM though is because even like corporate is one of the like worst pyramids, because I tell people all the time, it's just a different type of pyramid. Corporate is more of a closed off pyramid, meaning like you have to work to get, if you want to get to the top, you have to work within the pyramid, meaning like you have to be an employee and then be like, a manager, then the regional manager, and then from there move up to hopefully up to a really high position. But the thing is, the issue is that because it's actually a closed off pyramid, that the higher you get, the limited spots available. And with the spots available, usually the only way to get in is if someone dies or someone quits or they get fired. And a lot of those people stay till they die.
Till like 80.
A lot of them are old. Yeah. And even then, a lot of them, those positions don't even get passed down from within the company.
It's all recommendation. I'm going to put my son-in-law.
Exactly. Yeah. It's either from the family, or sometimes they'll hire someone from another company that was in the same position. Like they're like, oh,
they just trade these.
Yeah, and then just trade. Right. So then it's like, it really sucks because it's very, 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 very slim. Yeah, man. So I always tell people, there's different types of business pyramids. Corporate ladder, again, is more closed off, versus the reason why I like the network marketing pyramid a little better is because you can come in at any point in time and you can make more than whoever's above you at any point in time. It's purely based off of your work ethic.
So at this point, you are brainstorming about potentially having your own business, but right now you're diving deep into the real estate market and the real estate game. So how did you eventually?
So I did real estate within, bought a house, and then I wanted to do more of that, but I was like, I need to gain more capital, started doing stock. But then I was like, you know what? I don't enjoy this. And I'm like, I want to start a business, but I had no idea how to do that. And again, I was looking at stats, majority of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And the reason is because people may have the idea, they may have the industry, but for example, you may know how to cook. You may want to have an idea of having this restaurant, but you may not know how to run a business. And that's where people fail. They just don't know how to do it.
Outside of that, I've always been told that if you want to lose money, just open up a restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. And
which sounds messed up, but it's like.
It is. But also I met this guy, his name is Jeff Fenster. His headquarters is actually nearby. I don't know are you familiar with Everbowl? Everbowl's pretty popular here in San Diego. It's an acai spot. Okay. Dude, they're phenomenal. I mean, as far as restaurant wise, they're good. I like them, healthy, all stuff. But he's actually flipped. He knew nothing about how to make anything, but he knew exactly how to run a business. And he started a restaurant, which is, again, like has that same taboo of like, shouldn't be, it is a good way of losing money, but it's because the people who start restaurants know how to cook, but they don't know how to run a business. Right. Versus when Jeff did it, he started a payroll company, built it up from ground zero, sold it. This man knows about business, but he took the same fundamentals, put it into a restaurant that he was passionate about. And he, very successful business to this day, bro. He has athletes investing in his franchise. He's growing all over the United States. And then he's phenomenal. And I would definitely encourage you looking into him. But that kind of, to me, proves it's like, it doesn't matter the industry you get into. If you know the basics of how to build a business, you can build any business. So I was like, cool, before I figure out like what the idea is, because I had all these like, crazy ideas. I'm like, what if I just start like a cool spot where people come in and like can just like break stuff and like,
I've seen that before.
Like a rage cage. It's
my friend did that before.
Now. Yeah. And I'm like, that's a good idea. But I'm like, it wouldn't matter if I didn't know how to run it or anything. So I was like, before I get into that aspect, I'm like, let me learn how to actually run a business. And the best way I could do that is I need to build the skills, selling, recruiting, building teams, all those things that require, running a business. And I'm like, how can I do that at a low risk? And so MLM is a perfect way to do that. It's usually maybe like at the most, maybe like $1,500 investment, at the least, maybe like $200 to $400 investment. Mm-hmm. And you learn all the skills. You get the same amount of buy-in as if it's your own business. You get to sell a product as if it's yours, and you get to build a team and do all that stuff. Same way, low risk, right? And you can actually make way more money because it's not yours. Obviously, there's different benefits to it than running your own business, but that's where I got started. I learned how to run a business. I did really good. I did really well at that. I was like the youngest. The rank that I got was like the youngest in the company because I was 21 at the time. So I got to like go on these trips, and I got all these checks, and it was great. I did a great job. Recruiting, I got to really hone in that skill.
By recruiting, what exactly are you recruiting?
Recruiting people, building teams,
Gotcha.
building culture. And
for that specific MLM company?
For that company, yeah.
Gotcha.
And I got good at that. Then I got good at understanding the people that I like to work with, people I don't like to work with. I had a great people to run alongside with, like my buddy Daniel. He phenomenal leader. I learned a lot of leadership skills from him. And that's another thing, man. I learned a lot of leadership skills from that, because in the Marine Corps, there are basic leadership skills you learn, but at the end of the day, bro, everybody's there because they have to be. Like, they signed a contract. They're legally binded. They are government property. Like, so you can call them like a piece of shit all day, and they have to take it. Like, obviously there's new rules in place where you can't do that as much, but still, like, you can tell somebody like you can say the most disrespectful thing to them when they mess up, and they have to show up tomorrow. Versus if you do that as a business owner, that person's not going to work for you. Like,
I've seen Full Metal Jacket, bro. Trust me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So like, there's a different level of like leadership, versus like leading people because it's easy because they have to be here anyways, versus leading people because they don't have to be here. And I actually have to, get them invested. And that's a whole nother level of leadership that I got to learn. And then when 2020 hit, when the pandemic hit, I pretty much finished that garage that I was telling you about, like the studio. So I finished that up, and I was like, everything was put on pause. Like, my life was very full. I was serving in my church. I was, working in the Marine Corps, doing business. Like, I had a lot of things going on, and everything just ceased. For the first time in a long time, I was bored, which for me was really nice. I was like, I forgot what it feels like to be bored. And I was like, watched Netflix for like a week and got tired of that. And I ended up like starting to like kind of like design the studio space that I built in my garage. Bought a computer, and I was like, you know what? Like, I have all this time. I've been wanting to make like a podcast style video called Food for Thought, because I would always give people advice. I'd always help people, and I was always like, hey, that's just some food for thought, right? So I was like, maybe I should name it Food for Thought. So then I started like a 7-episode series on IGTV, and just me talking to the camera, and people really liked that. And this was before Reels were a thing. And I was like, you know what? Like, let me do that. And then Reels actually started becoming a thing after that. So then I did similar talking stuff, but with a condensed time. And people ended up liking it to the point where business owners would hit me up to do it for them, because I was growing my account. They liked the aesthetic of it. They liked the way I did it. And that's kind of how I got introduced to videography. But this time I had a business backing, like understanding of business. So then I took my freelancing to the next level. I started working with specifically business owners, and then
So you just niche down.
Yeah, niche down.
Cut off the music videos, cut off the weddings.
100%. Because I was like, there's more money in this because these people actually get an ROI. Versus music video, you don't really get an ROI unless you're big, or if you're like, like actually like getting like paid from your YouTube account or something like that.
Which is unlikely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for real. Especially the price they pay. So I just kind of did that. And weddings I just was exhausted from. So, and I got to also like learn from, I get to learn from these business owners and work with them at the same time. So then I started doing that, and I started working with like a lot of my my friends. At that point I built a community of like entrepreneurs, like friends that are entrepreneurs. I did this.
Question.
Yeah.
How do you define an entrepreneur?
How do I define it?
Yeah.
Man, I feel
because
like
everyone's throwing the word. It's a buzzword right now on Instagram and TikTok. You name it.
I know, right?
Everyone that just works for themselves, like, I don't really consider myself an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay.
So you tell me, because based on your background, I feel like you have a better understanding.
I'd say for me, bro, I think that like with anything, whether you're a leader, entrepreneur, all these things, I feel like you first have to embody the characteristics before you take on the title, right? So a lot of people do the opposite, where they like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. They put in their bio, and then
it sounds sexy. It looks cool.
It does. It is a new hype. You know what I'm saying? It's a new. I call it being an entrepreneur is the new being a rapper. You know what I mean? Because everybody's attracted to it. It seems really cool. The lifestyle looks amazing. But it's all the hype right now. But for me, like I personally, man, entrepreneurs, someone who's actively, leading in a space and looking to add value, and obviously gain some type of capital in return. But first of all, like adding that value, right? Like basic economics is you find an issue that people really have, and then you present a solution, and then you charge for that solution, and then people pay you for that. So if you're doing that in some shape or form, and you're taking high risk or any type of risk really, because again, you can join MLM or a low risk industry, and you're having that type of friction, and then always having to continuously face obstacles that you're solving to help people, to help yourself, your business. I think if you're doing things like that, I feel like you qualify as an entrepreneur.
So by that definition, I guess I am an entrepreneur.
Yeah, 100%. You do that every
Because I always like the freelance and entrepreneur. I feel like it's different because an entrepreneur is building, at least from my understanding, building multiple businesses, multiple revenues of income, where I'm just in one lane in a way.
Yeah. So the way I see it, and I don't know, this is again one of my friends. Good. He's actually a pastor, and he's a great business owner as well. He kind of explained this to me. His name's Jeff. He was saying how there's different levels of entrepreneurship. Like entrepreneurship is more of like an umbrella title, but within entrepreneurship, you have solopreneurs, intrapreneurs. You have different types of entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So you're more on the solopreneur side, where you're mainly just like freelancing on your own, and that's a good way of doing entrepreneurship. And you know, there's no right or wrong, and everybody's different. Everybody's characteristics are different. People's risk tolerance is different. So like again, like you can be have entrepreneur style characteristics, but maybe you just don't want to take high risk. So then you just go underneath somebody's company. That's maybe I recommend, if you find yourself in this category, to find a company that's starting up, and then that way you can have that same style of purpose without having to take on all the risk. Those are called intrapreneurs. So people who are like, hey, I want to help build your business because I have the same drive as you, I have the same whatever, but I don't want to like throw down like 100K or $500,000 to start the business, but you pay me for my time, I'll help you build. And then those people usually end up making a lot of money down the line because
Can there be a job?
Yes, but it depends. Like, so for me as a CEO of my company, if somebody comes into my business with that same mindset, in the beginning it's a job, but then at some point when your business starts to grow, you start to get you get put in positions, because you were there from the beginning. You get first dibs on positions, obviously if you're good at it. But then even then, or you can get bought out. And it really depends on the leader, because
Sure.
you can take advantage. I can take advantage of people if I wanted to. I'd be like, hey, I can sell them on the dream, sell them on the vision, help them build my business, and then just kind of be, hey, you're on your own. But most entrepreneurs aren't like that. At least I feel like the ones that have the values and all that stuff will take care of the people who take care of them. So usually, like how it works is, like, for example, all the people who were there when Steve Jobs was building Apple, like those people are well set off. Like they are billionaires. Same thing with Microsoft.
Okay, now I'm understanding. Now
because they were there. Same thing with Mark Zuckerberg.
They were there from the jump.
100%. And then they either get some type of
equity,
or they get some type of payout. A lot of times, sometimes there's people like there's. You can get, if you want to go deep into it, there's some people who are there from the beginning, and they jump off in the middle. So those people usually get bought out. And the people who are there till they blow up, those people usually get some type of ownership, which is equity or maybe they sit on the board of advisors.
Gotcha.
And those, I feel like, to be honest, man, entrepreneurs, like I feel like if you're trading time and risk for profit, they make more money than actual CEOs. Because they're just following the vision, putting in the effort, and then they get the payoff down the line.
And that's the key, as long as you like actually believe in the vision itself.
100%, yeah.
But it's easy to sell that.
Yeah, and if you're an entrepreneur trying to look for something like that, you just find somebody who's building something that you can get underneath, that you can align with. You align with their values, you align with what they're doing, and you can commit to it, and you see potential in it. Obviously, because there's a lot of startups out there that don't do well. Then I think that'd be a really smart move, right? And again, it's low risk. I mean, it's more of a time risk than it is.
I was gonna say you're just investing in your time for the most part.
100%. And then sometimes it could be a small financial risk, depending if it's a startup where we're like, hey, we're not going to get paid a lot in the beginning, because you're kind of like following the lead of the entrepreneur. But I mean, at least for me, like there's times in my business where, like cash flow didn't come in how it should have. But I don't pay myself, but I always pay my team. So
Sure.
they don't feel that. So it just depends on the person, sometimes they'll invite them into that and say, hey, like we're not getting paid. But for me, I personally feel like if I'm the one taking the risk, then I'm the one that shouldn't get paid right now, because I know that I will get return down the line. Right. Because at the end, ultimately, I'm going to be the one that gets paid the most out of everybody down the line, right? Because it's well deserved and all that stuff, right?
And so, so you're finally thinking about, okay, you have the business background.
In So I started.
Because you're creating personal content at this point.
Yeah.
You're getting some steady business with all these business people that want you to create content for them.
Yeah. I'd say I left the Marine Corps in 2021. So May of 2021 was when I officially was done in the military. And then from there is when I started. So I actually like, I went back to freelancing and I just leveled up my freelancing. And then I was just still like kind of solopreneur style. But then I ended up hitting a rock and realizing that I want to build something bigger. And I just kind of was like, being like, Castro Visuals, like making that the brand is more about me. It's not about, other people. So I was like, I want to build something different. So I had to completely pivot. A lot of the clients that I had stayed with me.
What made you pivot?
It was I got screwed in the Marine Corps one last time.
Right.
So I ended up, because I had all these clients, because the hookup that I had towards the end of my Marine Corps career was really nice. I was able to I take care of my clients and still be in the Marine Corps at the same time. I was able to leave whenever I wanted. I didn't have to be at work all the time. So I was doing that, making good side money. And then I ended up having to do my checkout process. I got screwed over where I was supposed to show up every day at a certain time. And then I had to start canceling shoots with some of my clients. And it was almost like a month to 2 months period of that. And I felt bad. And I told my clients, hey, I can't work on your stuff right now. If you want, you can wait a couple months and we can pick up again. But I know that you run a business and this is important to you. So if you have to find somebody else, I totally understand. Very few stayed with me. And then I realized that, I'm not duplicating myself, which is something I learned in network marketing, where you have to duplicate yourself. Because if you don't duplicate yourself, then you become, a slave to your business. Because the business owns you. You don't own your business.
What exactly do you mean by duplicate yourself?
Duplicating your time. So in the sense of I couldn't be taking care of my clients because it was just me. I didn't have a team. I didn't have people to take care. I couldn't task people out. And so because of that, it cost me money, it cost me clients, it cost me reputation technically. So then I pretty much pivoted and I was like, I want to build something where it's bigger than me. Because I ultimately realized that after I kind of got out of the business world and I was going back into videography and I blended both of them, I realized that it's not like videography that I love so much. I mean, I do love it but I love graphic design. I love photography. I love doing everything creative wise, but I realized I just love to create and build is really what my passion is. And that's where entrepreneurship and this kind of meet. So I was like, I want to develop people because at the same time I discovered that I love to teach because I was a marketing instructor. So all these skills are kind of coming together and
organically too.
Yeah, exactly. Organically. And then I realized, okay, I'm going to make it bigger than me. And it was honestly a rough pivot because I really wanted to do it right. I was like, I want to build the foundations correctly. And I had 2 months. It was stressful, man. I decided to go full entrepreneur after being in a secure job. I got paid every 2 weeks. Always knew I was going to get paid. Never was it a shadow of a doubt. But now I'm full-time entrepreneur, bro. I don't know, if I'm going to actually be able to pay my mortgage, feed my wife, and that's, that's not a good spot to be in, So I was just stressed out for pretty much 2 months because I got out early, got paid for 2 more months after that because I got turned in all my vacation days. So I got 2 months to figure this out. And I could have cut corners and I could have just went into I'm going to go get jobs and I'll figure it out later. And that's not a bad strategy, but I was I felt for some reason I needed to get the foundation dialed in. So I was I need to find out what my vision is. What are my core values? What is this brand about? And that took me a month and a half to do. And I did, and I was waking up every day and going to work on it. And at the same time, trying to kind of start getting people to think about me for video stuff. So that way, when I was ready, I can just close some people. And it was stressful, man. I was waking up every day with anxiety, and I'm not an anxious person. And dude, the only way I really got through that was really my faith in God and to really just give me peace to go through the day to get what needed to get done. Right. And there was days where I was like, man, should I just go on LinkedIn and look for a job? And I almost did it a couple of times, but I was like, no, I'm going to do this. And then a month and a half later, I got all the stuff. I literally have it written down on this I laminated it and everything. I printed it out and laminated it because that would be cool. And I have my vision statement, purpose statement, core values, my branding board, all these things. And I was like, okay, now I'm ready. And I got the trademark and all stuff. And so the last couple months, well, not last couple months, last couple of weeks of that time period, I was like, man, like now I need to launch and to get people to start hiring me. And I committed to serving for my church for a whole week at summer camp with teenagers, because I serve with teenagers, and I committed for that, and that's a whole week of like all day for 1 week that I could not afford technically, but I committed to that, and I believe in my values and serving God's kingdom first, so I did that, and I was stressed out the whole time. But what I did was I would be present and do what I was doing over there during the day, and then at night when everybody went to sleep, I went to work. So I barely slept that week, and I launched in the middle of that, and then I was DMing people, making calls here and there, and finally towards by the end of that month, I ended up securing enough clients to just pay my bills, and I was like, okay, cool, we're good. Now let's do that again. And then I just kind of kept doing that little by little. And then I was doing everything on my own. I was operating as if I was a company, as if I had a team, when I didn't.
Fake it till you make it.
I literally would call people, and then they would be like, yeah, let's do it. Like, we'll sign the contract, all stuff. Awesome, man. I'm going to have my team send a contract. My team's going to come in and start shooting with you. We're going to get you blah, blah, blah. And it was just me, bro. I was my team. I was making sales, editing videos, doing shoots, posting content. And so, and then little by little, I would attract certain people who wanted to learn from me and work with me. And then I would, develop them. Some of them didn't work out. Some of them did. And then I got to a point where I started getting an influx of clients. And it was getting to my limit. And then, I ended up, meeting one of my mentors and good friends of mine today. His name's Austin. He actually has the same exact business that I do, but in Seattle. And I met him through a friend who gave me his social media page, just told me to hit him up, and I did. And I said, hey bro, let's get some coffee. I would love to pick your brain. He was visiting, and I got to go out to, really ask him some questions. He told me good things to do, actionable steps. And I'm very respectful of people's time. And I'm not the type of person to ask for advice and then not come back to you until I did what you said to do. And so I was like, cool, man. And I actually want to respect his time. I didn't want to bother him. I'm sure you're busy. But he was like, hey man, here's my number. Like, if you need anything, like, he was very giving. Like, and then he ended up, he would actually follow up with me like, hey bro, like, what are you dealing with right now? What are your issues in your business? I'll show you how we solve it. And he's got a good system and structure. And he really showed me the back end on how he does things. And it really was the way we were able to expedite our growth because of what he showed me. And he was very giving with that. And I was able to build my business to 6 figures in 6 months because of that. And, he's somebody I always go to if I have issues with employees, if I have issues with clients, if I have issues with this. And he's always, because he's in the same exact space, which is very rare.
But different location.
Different location, yeah. But because I have mentors in other areas, I have mentors in other businesses, and they're great, but they don't always understand fully because they're not in the same industry as you. But he does. And then I was telling him about all this stuff, and I'm like, bro, you need to do this for other people. Like, you're phenomenal. And he actually was like, yeah, man, I'm actually working on creating a company called Agency U, where he helps people build agencies. And he's doing that, and he's killing it in that. And he's one of the people that I always want to make sure I recognize. Because we built to, I can't do this without, my wife, without my team. But he, from a fundamental standpoint and practical standpoint, he gave me a lot of tools that people would charge you for. And, and he was still building his rubric for that. And I got to kind of be his guinea pig a little bit, but it helped me a lot, man. And he still helps me till this day. And he's a good friend of mine now. But that was a big, attribute to that, because it was one of the pieces that I was missing, because it was a whole new world. And I'm like, what? Like, there's so many options, so many tools you can use online. And I was tracking everything on my whiteboard. I was like, and I started running out of space on my whiteboard. And dude, it was a terrible way to track stuff, like client projects on a whiteboard, bro. And things get erased by accident. It's just terrible. And then he showed me how to use Notion. He gave me some templates, and then I got to remix those templates, make it work for me. And that's our whole database is all used on Notion. Everything that we've built was based off a foundation he gave us. And that's kind of where I was able to then start scaling kind of to where we're at today. And
now you have this beautiful studio.
Yeah, man. And so, those attributes that I built back then all kind of came, it all came together very, very, it was messy in the moment, but looking back in retrospect, it feels seamlessly, very, very organically, like you said earlier. But obviously I couldn't have done it with any of the key components in my life, like without my faith, my wife being very supportive, my team being, very, very big on building the vision that we have here. And then, having mentors in my life, people to speak into my life and kind of guide me in that those were the key components to making it happen. If I didn't have that, bro, I wouldn't be where I'm at for sure.
Where do you see Optic Elements in the next 5 years?
5 years. 5 years to me is not a long time. So for me, it's
not a long time, but a lot could happen.
Yeah, 100%. So for me, it feels like a short-term goal. But in 5 years, man, I kind of want to get to the point where we're franchising in a sense of like building multiple style studios like this and building teams in other locations. Because we have clients all over. We have clients in Florida, Texas, Vegas, Arizona. So it's like, it's nice to like travel, but I feel like from an efficiency standpoint, I want to eventually have different studios in different locations. Maybe in the beginning, just by 5 years, probably have like maybe East Coast, West Coast, and then maybe like right in the middle somewhere in Texas or something like that. And then have teams built out there and just local videographers, have a network of that, and then just be the best in our industry for building people's brands. Social media is where that's at right now, but 5 years that can change. It can be some different platform, different way, because technology is always evolving.
Yeah.
But visuals, I feel like will always be the same as far as the creative side of it, like the basic foundation of it. So that's kind of where we see ourselves in 5 years. Specifically, want to dominate within the marketplace, entrepreneurship for now.
What are your thoughts on the current state of social media right now?
It's interesting, man. It's very interesting. It's a really weird. Again, we talked about this last time, but it's really weird because we work within it on a day-to-day basis. I think it's an amazing tool. You can really, bro. You can build a whole like career off social media.
Yeah.
And you can do it with ease. Not in the sense of that it'll be easier, that it would be easy, but it is easier than it was before. But it also is like a death trap in a sense of if you use it incorrectly, it can get you in the sense of you falling into an addiction, looking at things you shouldn't, to then fall into comparison games and then lower your self-esteem, and then you're just so like addicted to chasing that dopamine that then everything else in your life feels so dull. So it's a very fine line. It's a double-edged sword. It can be used for a lot of good, but the majority of people I feel like don't. It's kind of like credit. I kind of see like credit. Like, so
I love credit.
Yeah.
I love social media, and it's because I feel like I'm doing it the right way. And
exactly.
I know there's, like you said, double-edged sword. I don't even tempt myself.
Yeah. 100%. Like credit, man, you can leverage credit to travel for free.
Oh, yeah.
You can leverage
Done
credit to
many times.
Build like get 0% interest on like really high loans. Like you can do so much with leveraging credit, but it's so enticing that to do that it lures a lot of people, but then majority of them end up just falling into debt and actually don't get to leverage the benefits of it. Instead, they're in a hole.
Right.
I feel like social media is the same exact thing, where it has this enticing aspect of like, oh, you could be a content creator. Oh, you can get paid to do this. And they're like, oh yeah, I want to do it. And then they get involved into social media, or they just get pulled in by the fancy bells and whistles, that then they just end up becoming into like it's almost like a social deficit, where like socially, and then usually that bleeds into your economics, where you're so depressed and burnt out and so like dulled out that you don't build your own business or your own personal bank account if you're not into business, or even build your relationships. And it can be deadly. That it's like a slow. I feel like it's like a slow stabbing. It's not like something that you just realize like one day you're like, oh snap, I have a problem. It's something that it just continuously starts to kind of like snowball, and then until you hit like a wall, and you're like, man. And then it's so normal and it's so common, it's so easily accessible that it's also something people kind of that they dismiss. Because for example, like drugs, if you use drugs, you have a whole bunch of problems in your life, it's probably because you do drugs. It's pretty simple. You can pinpoint the issue. If you're an alcoholic, same thing. If you have issues with like, let's say spending money, you like gambling, you can pinpoint, oh, I have a financial issue because I can't control the amount of money that I gamble, right? Like it's very easy to pinpoint a problem. With social media, it's so gradual and it's so stealth that when you hit that rock bottom, you're like, I don't know why I'm so depressed. It's so hard to pinpoint the problem. And if it's hard to pinpoint the problem, it's hard to come up with a solution. So that's why I feel like it can be pretty deadly. So I think it's like being a good regulator within the way you use social media. And honestly, bro, like it's really weird, but the only two industries in the world that call their customers users are the social media world and the drug dealing world. But I ended up just cutting that out completely for a full quarter. And I actually really enjoyed it. I really liked it. And I was like, man, but like, this is not sustainable. I can't just not have social media because it builds my, like a whole point of building my brand and all stuff. So what I did was I put a system in place, kind of how I did for my clients, where I pretty much delegate everything. So I don't post for myself on social media unless it's a story or something like that.
Because you rarely post.
Yeah, I barely post, and then so I right now is I'll have my my team do it for me, and I'll just set them up for success to do that, and then I have an app on my phone called Opal, which blocks out all social media platforms because it's hard to like. The struggle that I was going through was when I deleted it off my phone, bro, I would literally be working, and every time I hit a roadblock, like things got a little hard, I would always reach for my phone. And I realized that I did that all the time. And I was like, this is like, I'm on some crackhead energy type of thing right here. Like, I was like, I don't like that.
And if you calculate all that time, like you're really wasting like hours of your life just
and
doing that.
I would do that. Yeah, I'd be working, and then I'm like, and then I would go, and I'm like, there's literally nothing to look at here, and I'm like putting it down.
I catch myself doing that. Like if I had a roadblock on the edit, I'm like,
yeah,
so
exactly.
I call myself like, dude, what am I doing? So I just toss the phone on the couch, so it's like not on my desk or at all. So it's like I just focus on the work.
And that's good to do. Some people play it in another room. Some people get those boxes that lock for a certain period of time.
See, that's a little extreme.
Yeah, that's
it's
extreme.
Like,
yeah, I mean,
I like to believe I have a little bit more control than that.
Yeah. Everybody.
But I understand.
Yeah, everyone's a little different on that. And I mean, I've debated those too. What I ended up works for me is so I got that app. So I re-downloaded obviously those apps because I still post stories to like display things that we're doing in business. So
yeah, you got to do it.
Attracted, yeah. And this app pretty much lets you block off times of your day. So all my like from 6 a.m. all the way till lunchtime, I can't access any of my social media platforms. And you can change it where you can add breaks. It'll let you go in there and set a break if you'd like. If you like, sometimes I do that where I just do a quick minute break to like just post a story to keep engagement going on that. But you can also do where I have my monk mode sessions where I have no distractions, where you can do like there's no break. Like
I like that monk mode.
Can't even access it, even if the only thing
even if you want to.
Yeah, the only thing you could, I think if you delete the app, maybe you can, but then it's just
like override.
Yeah, it'll just kind of like I don't even know if it'll. I've never tried it because I've never gone that far on that. I'm not that addicted. Yeah. So if I really need to, I have a business phone. If I need to like get on it like for business reasons, I'll do that. But it really helps, man, to regulate that. And then you can set different times during the day, like your wind down time if you want to block it on that. Sure. And it really helps me, bro. I think that really, because I'll still catch myself doing that. I'll go because it's built such a habit, and I'll go and I like how it'll show up. I'll like click on Instagram and it'll give you like a little quote and it says how it's blocked. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let me get back to work. Nice. And then same thing on my browser too, because I'm on my computer a lot, working obviously. You can have an extension that'll do the same thing. It'll block all platforms if you like. For me, I do on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, where it's similar, but it's not exact the same. Where it blocks any of the feeds, kind of like ad block, sure, where it blocks any new content coming in, but you can still get on the platform and search things up. So like, for example, like if I'm doing like some like cold outreach and you get an Instagram, I can search things up. I can search up hashtags, but like people on my feed that I follow, like my For You page is just all muted out. Like there's nothing there.
And you notice that really helped with your depression?
100%, man. Like, I mean, there's other things that I was going through too.
Sure.
But that was a big factor to it. Like that really like made it like way worse. So it was a big issue that I ended up realizing that I was like, man, like, because again, same thing how when I was doing the stock market thing, I was so into the media because it was part of, I guess, my job, and I was getting those secondhand level of depression in a sense. So it was whatever I was going through, because I also went through an injury in the beginning of the year where I couldn't work out, and I felt like super like just useless. It was hard to sleep, it was hard to walk, sit, stand, anything. I couldn't do anything, and so that was an issue. And then plus the comparison game on social media made that terrible, and then ultimately just kind of sent me down a spiral of more of an internal game versus I played the depression game. but it's more of external, like my environment. But this was more of an internal, which was like things I was dealing with inside that even though my environment looked really good. And then social media just made it worse, man. Just made it terrible.
And where are you at right now?
Now, dude, I'm on the flip side. Well, I kind of like I kind of like label my life in seasons. So, for me, I've had this season of hardship for like, it's been a little bit of a long road, but it's been broken up into almost 2 different seasons. I had the season of like last year, traveled a lot, although still slightly depressed. A lot of good things happening externally, but a lot of undealt with things happening internally. And then the middle mark of that was my son. My wife and I decided to have a son. Well, we didn't decide to have a son, but we decided to have
I heard you
a
can
kid.
now.
I know, right? Nowadays with technology, you never
Yeah.
know. We decided to have a kid, and before that, like slight backstory, I didn't want a kid till at least I was 27 to even consider it. But she's been ready to have a kid since she was 20, and it's like all she's ever wanted because she like loves kids. She works with kids, but she's like, I want my own. And I personally didn't want to have a kid. I was like on my hustle, my grind, and I was like, I feel like it's going to take away time and all these things. And I had a dream. It was like a very emotional dream. I've had only 2 dreams like this. This is one of them. The other one was, well, I could tell you another time, but because it is a long story. And I had a dream pretty much that I was holding my son, and like it was me, and then I felt the presence of God. And it's almost like I heard a voice where I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. Second to the other dream that I had. And I was just crying, like just not from like pain or from
Tears of joy.
Yeah, it was just from the presence of this immense feeling of joy and peace. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I was like, I love the moment, but then I was like, I'm looking forward to this in a couple of years, like down the line. And then I was like, and then I kind of like was like reasoning with God in my dream and saying how like, well, I need to financially get to this level first so I can support my baby. I don't want my baby to be, going to terrible schools. I want him to have the best of the best, all this stuff, or her if it was going to be a girl at the time, we didn't know, right? But in the dream, I knew it was a boy, and then I ended up kind of just hearing this voice of pretty much what was in the synopsis of it was that I can't just keep trying to do everything in my strength to then eventually have this peace and this joy. Like why don't I just trust God and have the kid, and then if anything, that'll propel the financial goals and the life goals. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like logically, it makes no sense. Like this kid is going to take more money out of my bank account, take more time out of my day.
But it'll make you hustle harder.
Yeah, exactly. That's the flip side of it. And then so I was like, but I'm like, but it will like unlock something different that you can't really experience unless you have a kid. So I ended up like the seed was planted in that dream, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing, and all of a sudden kids look cuter, and then all my friends start having kids, and I'm like, man. And then so I told my wife, and my wife was just estatic once I said, hey, like I'm ready to have a kid, right? And so we started trying to have a kid, and then she got pregnant, and things start like I had although the surface level stuff was fixed on the social media side for the depression, I was like, oh, I'm good, I'm solid, but once I knew I was having a kid and it was real, certain things started to kick in, you're just like, man, like I got to take care of a whole human for at least 18 years. And then the financial burden, the emotional burden, the I don't want to mess this up kind of burden. And then on top of that, like I started to then realize that I have a lot of unaddressed issues and baggage with my relationship with my dad, because I don't know my dad. And I actually, like when we were the whole time I was, my wife was like, what do you want, a boy or a girl? And I was like, I really don't care. Like I really would want either or, but I would love to have a boy first because I got to secure the last name. And I was like, I was very confident. I was like, me and God have a deal. Like I had this dream, like it was a boy in the dream. So it's going to be a boy. Right. But then I kind of like slowly stopped saying that because I was like, one, like maybe if it's a girl, I'm gonna look like an idiot. But two, I actually started to convince myself that I didn't want a boy. Like subconsciously, I was like, you know what? I actually don't want a boy. I want a girl because it'd be nice to be a girl dad and blah, blah, blah. Although I do want a girl still, but I was trying to like weed out the desire to want a boy. And then we ended up doing the gender reveal, and it was a boy. And I was really excited for a moment. And then after that, I was like, man, I don't know if I want a boy. And I was like, why? I was like, why would I switch up? And I kind of asked myself this question, and I realized that with a boy comes a certain level of facing my relationship with my father.
Yeah.
Because if I have a girl,
Unlike some sort of
it's
trauma.
different. Yeah. So I was like, I didn't know how to be a dad because I never had a dad. Like my biological dad was not present in my life. And not only that, I didn't even know what it was like to be a son, like to a father. Like I had a terrible like sonship. Like I wasn't good at that. And I was like, this is scary now, scarier. Because if it's a girl, I was like, I can wing it, like there's different levels of, because a relationship from a father to a son is very unique. And it's very different from a father to a daughter. And that's unique in its own way. But yeah, man, I had to realize that I like buried a lot of feelings for my father. And I didn't address them. And that was the core of my, depression, the core of like, just the way that I saw myself. And then even like the way I would treat other people. And even then, man, like going back, digging deeper, dude, I was like, man, I have abandonment issues. Like I straight up, like I would do things because I was afraid of abandonment, even though I didn't know that, like I thought I was pretty confident, but like going back to my childhood, my mom and we never had a stable like home. We would go into a home, live in their garage or whatever. They had kids, and I would get really friendly with those kids. And I was like, oh, this is like family. And then we had to leave. And then that was ripped away. And we do that over and over and over again. And then I'd like subconsciously build this fear and this wall of like, people come and go all the time. And so I even treated my wife at a level of that too, where I felt like there is a point in place where she's going to leave anyways. And even though she would never do that because of that pain in my life, and I didn't even know about it. It was so deep. Like I didn't even realize that, dude. I was like, I thought I was good for a minute, and it turns out I wasn't. But I would have never have discovered that if it wasn't faced with my son. And then, how's
that been so far?
It's amazing, man. I love my son. I love my son to death, dude. I've never thought I could love like another human being like that. But it's like, I understand now why it was necessary for me to have a son, at least in my life, in my season, because that came with another level of like, like I was dealing with all that internal stuff, right? Then I was dealing with all like actual external stuff for real this time, because my life wasn't fun anymore in the sense of traveling all the time. Like I had to take care of my wife, had to start planning for the baby. And then once the baby was born, same time we moved into the studio. So like things got really, 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 really hard in my life. But if I never addressed that issue and I went through the same hardship that I just went through in my life, I would have dropped the ball. Like, because I wouldn't be able to hold that capacity without addressing that. And so I was able to kind of do both. I was addressing it, holding that capacity. It was really hard, kind of maneuvering it, and then really like going, because the harder my life got, the more prevalent that issue I kind of started seeing it in my life, and I had to address it, still working on fully like recovering and healing from that. But talking about it, sharing it with people, that really helps. And really like bringing it to light. Anything that you deal with, if you bring it to light, like especially if you do it with intention, with the right people. And for me, like obviously I'm a Christian, so I always give it to God and people who have the same values and views that I do. I give it to people like that, and I talk about it openly, man. I don't hide anything about it, because I definitely like it. I'm like 90% there. And then same thing, like again, like as that's kind of like coming to seas as far as overcoming it. So is the wave of my life where, building the studio out while having a baby, that was hard, and kind of over that hump. And then now going back into the ins and outs of running my business. Right. And then now my parents moved out here, so it's a great help with my son. And so things are starting to then like go back to a manageable spot as I'm overcoming this. And that's the flow of my life. I feel like flow of anyone's life who's building anything is, you overcome something, it's extremely hard, and then you have a breakthrough, and then you're in that breakthrough and that fruit for a season, and then you go to do the next thing and then another thing. So it's like, that's kind of but for me was one of the hardest things I've had to overcome, well, both internally and externally, with all the financial risk, all the emotional risk, and all the internal stuff I had to face. So it's a ride for sure, man.
Damn. Well, I'm glad you guys are Good.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you guys have a successful studio, successful business. And as we're wrapping up, man, if you have a strong 3 tips to any creative out there that are trying to get into the game, whether if it's solopreneur, freelance, or trying to build a business like yourself, any solid 3 tips that you could think of?
Man, I'd say, so if you're an entrepreneur and let's rephrase that. If you're a creative first, because it's really hard. Some people are creatives first and then they have to become entrepreneurs second. Some people are entrepreneurs first and they have to try to be creative second. Or some people, like, I feel like with me, naturally, they both developed at the same time. But usually I feel like it's harder for people who are creatives first. So I'll talk to those people specifically. So if you're creative who is like, I see an opportunity within the market or within the world of doing XYZ, whether it's graphic design, video, photo, whatever, or even let's say music, definitely hone in on the skill to do that. Should never shy away from that. But you have to simultaneously build a skill set of running a business. So you have to be learning how to sell, learning how to manage money, learning how to build teams, recruit, do promotions, make deals, things like that. Relational equity is something you want to build too, like building a network. So you want to do those 2 things simultaneously. As you do those 2 things, then you want to then move into now looking at what is it that you enjoy to do. So get experimental, figure out what you enjoy to do. Whatever it is you enjoy to do, set a goal that's achievable to be able to hit that. But in the process, you still want to be developing those skills, but then now you want to be developing capital. So you don't want to get stuck in the game of I really want to be doing, like I'm an artist and I really want to make music for myself so I can be the next Drake or Kendrick or whatever, right? That's something that is a great idea. I think it's a phenomenal goal. But you have to, especially because the competition is so high and so saturated, that you have to first see what is popular within the market. So as, let's say, a musician, you're like, okay, cool. Like there's a lot of music in video games. There's a lot of music in movies. There's a lot of music that is starting to pop off on TikTok. So then you look at the market. Now you make things for the market to build your capital, build your reputation, build your name. Then that will then carry you to the next level of actually being able to then do what it is you want to do. Same thing if you're a videographer, you find what the market needs, whether it's real estate videos, whether it's promo videos, all that, build the capital, build the skill, that'll carry you to then being able to do whatever it is you want to do. Some people here that work for us are doing that right now with us, but they eventually want to do documentaries. They eventually want to do movies. And that's all good and dandy, but you want to build the skill set and the capital at the same time while still focusing on what you want to do as well. If you want to do movies, you want to do, let's say, documentaries, find passion projects to do at the same time. So you want to be having a good balance of passion projects that bring you money, and then doing things that build the skill. And those 3 things I feel like will set you up for success to be able to give you a lot of options. You may, in the process, discover you may not like movies, like how you told me before, but then it puts you on, I actually love documentaries, or I actually love shooting real estate. And then you never know, but then at the same time, at least you figure that out while making money and building a skill. And then worst case scenario, let's say AI takes over and they make humans that have cameras embedded into them, and you're out of a job. At least you have a skill set that you know how to sell, you know how to build teams, you know how to build culture. And that's, I feel like, something robots can't do.
Yeah.
At least not within my lifetime. I feel like. Maybe down the future,
We're not
who knows?
there yet.
But I
We're
feel
not
like at
there
that
yet.
point it would be the apocalypse, so it wouldn't even matter. So,
and guys, even like with ChatGPT, man, like use that to your advantage, man. Use that. I use it a lot. I don't know if you use it in your own business.
Yeah, 100%.
How to respond to certain emails. You want to create a certain script. The guy that I actually shot yesterday, I tried to come up with a script for him, and then he said, I already have my own script from ChatGPT. Like, even they know that too.
Yeah.
So it's like, use ChatGPT to make it your friend.
Yeah, it's definitely a tool to have in your toolbox. Don't think that it's going to carry your whole business, because it won't.
No, yeah, exactly.
It's definitely one of those things that is a valuable tool. Saves me a lot of time.
Yeah, it saves me a lot of time as well. Well, Santiago, man, it's been a pleasure being here, man. Great conversation. We got a little deep, and I appreciate your honesty, man.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to see your guys' business thrive and it's been pretty cool seeing you grow. I think we've known each other for at least a couple of years, just from Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty cool seeing your guys' growth, and can't wait to see what happens in the future, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on.
And if you guys want to connect with Santiago, links will be in the description. Feel free to connect with them, hit them up, send them a DM, say what's up, say that you came from the Potter. We'll catch you guys later. Peace.